What's going, guys? Aarava here. Welcome back to the Pitlane podcast, episode number 23 today for the German Grand Prix race review. You're back with our usual host, myself and Tom. Callum is on holiday, actually, ironically, in Germany, but he's on holiday again. I know, he takes a lot of holidays. He's missed a few podcasts as a late. You know, he's just taking a bit too much of a break, to be honest. But anyway, it's just going to be us two now for the German Grand Prix. So, well, the story of the race, really, as a whole, was just Hamilton just outclassing pretty much everyone out front. Just measured drive and 7 seconds ahead in first place. Pretty much a flawless race, I think. I don't think he made one mistake, really, in that race. I think pretty measured drive, and if he does end up winning the driver of the day, I think pretty deserved. But I think a few people have said Daniel Ricciardo's name, tossing into the hat for that one as well. Ricciardo coming back after being overtaken by Verstappen early on in the race at turn 1 to come home in second, Verstappen third, and then Rosberg bottling it at the beginning of the race and then never fully being able to come back, and also a bit of controversy in the middle of that race, which we'll get to. He comes home in fourth, and then something that I'm sure Tom is very thrilled about, Ferrari lagging behind in 5th and 6th. And then 7th place for Nico Hülkenberg. I was very happy. Jenson 8th place. 9th place for Valtteri Bottas. Sergio Perez in 10th. And then, the rest we'll get to eventually. But as a whole, I think me and Tom differ a little bit on fully what we thought of that race. Tom just thought it was, well, I'll let you kind of say what you thought. What did you think of that race?
Not as bad as Hungary. Hungary was terrible, but this wasn't any better. 5 out of 10. It was okay.
This is where we differ a little bit, because obviously I'm going to be a little bit biased, because obviously my opinion is swayed by how also Jenson Button's race went. So I enjoyed it because, well, the McLarens, both the McLarens, even Fernando Alonso, they're able to race people. So I thought that was fun. And also, I did enjoy the midfield battles down the field. So I thought maybe a 6 out of 10. Generally, I just thought an okay race. Wasn't anything enthralling, but it definitely wasn't a snoozer, I don't think, for a lot of laps in the middle there and at the beginning. So I guess the best way to do this podcast would be just going down the teams. I think you'd agree.
Yeah.
So let's just start with Mercedes. So as I said, there's not too much else to say about Hamilton. Just a flawless drive. I don't know if you have anything to chime in about him. I think just 4 races in a row now. He's
4 in a row.
Yeah, stunner. Yeah. Just doing the job. He's proving that he probably is going to end up to win this title, I think. I think me and Tom both said it at the start. I think even Callum really also, we all three of us agreed that really, as much as Rosberg will fight back, we all think it's still probably going to be Hamilton's to lose, really.
I think I've just come up with this phrase. I think to put it perfectly, subtle and short, Lewis Hamilton has taken a World Championship-sized dump on Nico Rosberg in Spain and Monaco. So, I think that's the best way to put it. He's overturned a deficit he's basically gained 62 points on Rosberg since Monaco. I mean,
well, they've matched each other now, 4 wins apiece, 4 in a row for Rosberg, 4 in a row for Hamilton, and then the rest, and then the other races are basically the deciders, and Hamilton's come out on top in those.
Obviously, Hamilton's done what we expected. He obviously eventually overcame all the issues at the start of the season. He's overtaken Rosberg, but now, obviously, he's got, Spa and Monza, he's going to take engine penalties for both of the races. So now it's when Rosberg should be expected to win the race, and Hamilton obviously do his best to recover. But then once Hamilton gets the pain of the engine penalty out of the way, once again, it'll be Rosberg in the lead probably, Hamilton catching back up again. I think Hamilton will basically re-overtake him again in the last couple of races, and Hamilton will win the championship. Simple as that.
Yeah, Mercedes did say that they might take like a double hit and use like 2 new engines, like one in quali or one in FP, like one of the free practice sessions, and then a second new one to be a bit clever and take the pain. Because now there's that new rule in 2016 after all the stupid stuff we saw with McLaren Honda last year, that there's that new rule that the grid penalty doesn't carry over. So if they take the pain in one race, he's going to be at the back, and they can't do like, okay, you didn't take these extra 10 places, do it for next race. So they might do that. Right. I think they probably will do that. It seems like the most kind of clever way to do it. But looking at the other side of the garage, Rosberg, as Tom just mentioned, we've said a little bit, won the first 4 races, and then is now with a 19-point deficit, I think it is. Don't quote me if I'm wrong. But yeah, Rosberg, just at the start, he had pole position. He was looking pretty happy. Said he wanted to win that race today, and just at the start, completely, you wouldn't have thought at the start of the season that Hamilton was the one getting the bad starts, because Rosberg literally just got what Hamilton was getting in the first 4 races. Shocking start. Got taken by Ricciardo and Verstappen. Verstappen made a nice little move around the outside. A little bit debatable, because he was pretty much literally completely on the curb. But, there weren't any track limit issues. That weekend FIA said they relaxed it for turn 1. But Rosberg then fell down to 4th. Tried to come back at Ricciardo in the first stint. Didn't quite work. And then really just held station. And then he went on the super soft tyres again in the second stint. And then they've completely found out that, that's not the race tyre to be on at all. And then from there, well, obviously we had a bit of controversy with Verstappen, the movie men Verstappen. So, Tom, what did you make of that, really? There's a lot of debate on Twitter. So, what did you make of the move into the hairpin? If you don't know what happened, Rosberg went down the inside, basically drove a little bit straight and basically squeezed him off the circuit a little bit, kept it very, very harsh on the line, and then took the position. And then he was later given a 5-second time penalty, which he took at his next pit stop. But Tom, what do you make of it?
I am right on the fence with this one.
Yeah,
I'm literally sat on the fence because I think it's a racing incident, but at the same time, it's the exact same thing Rosberg did to Hamilton at Austria, and he got penalised for it. So, I guess there's consistency there.
Yes, I agree with that.
So, I think it's just the right decision. But if he hadn't been given a penalty, I wouldn't have really got too mad anyway. Honestly, it's right on the fence. But the penalty doesn't feel that much of a punishment, because at the end of the day, he has not technically learned his lesson from Austria. So, to me, I'd say it's just about right. 5 seconds, didn't have to take too much pain. The Mercedes probably took more pain than what they should have done by getting the stopwatch wrong, which we'll get into in a minute. But
other
than that,
I personally thought
I think it's right.
5 seconds. I would have liked them if they would have made a faster decision and then just been like Rosberg, just let Verstappen through, just for the sake of we then could have maybe seen Rosberg get right on the back, because obviously he would have let him through in a clever way, hopefully, to just let him back through and then get immediately back on him. Well, you would hope, but it's Rosberg. But
imagine if he just lets him get
just like a nose, like he's far enough. Zoom. But I think that could have been a lot more kind of like, I just feel like we've not, like, the FIA are too quick to now use this new 5-second rule instead of just doing the classic hand back to position and then get back to racing, because I think Rosberg then completely just didn't look like anything after his pit stop with the kind of stopwatch failure, and then he just didn't have any pace. Like they're debating maybe, are both Mercedes, are they both conserving? But then Hamilton just starts pulling time out of the bag, so clearly Rosberg just didn't have the pace there at the end in the last stint to catch even Verstappen. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the actual penalty, I said on Twitter at the time, in the heat of the moment, I thought it was a bullshit penalty. Looking back at it, I still don't think it was a penalty in my opinion, but it's on the fence. Sort of like, I'm more towards the fence, and I can see why they've given the penalty for the exact reason Tom said, that it is a lot like Austria, and so they have to keep consistent. So I do like the fact they kept consistent in that way, but I do also think it was a little bit harsh, because we've seen other drivers in the past make a similar sort of harsh move where they've squeezed them out. Maybe not like Rosberg, because Rosberg straightened up quite a lot in the middle of the corner. Other drivers have squeezed people off the circuit a little bit, but I just think, at the end of the day, like Tom just said, you made a very good point about being consistent with Austria.
Yeah, I mean, if you're Verstappen,
you're gonna feel hard done by. Like,
you would have demanded a penalty.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
I think it's one. It's like one of these ones. I'm like 51% penalty, 49% no penalty. I'm just slightly leaning towards the fact I think it was the right decision. It should have been a penalty, but overall, I wouldn't have been too. I'm not too bothered about either.
I mean, at the end of the day, me and Tom don't care about Rosberg too much in terms of, or Verstappen in terms of like where they finish. So, for us, we're coming at it as neutrals, just thinking like, so, give you what you want. Obviously, Rosberg and Verstappen fans will have it either way, but we're coming at it from a neutral standpoint. So at the end of the day, we didn't really care too much. But
listen to us.
That's
we know.
So moving on, well, actually, wait, quickly before we move on to Red Bull, the whole stopwatch debacle. I think you found a lot of enjoyment in the way Toto Wolff put it, Tom.
Yeah. Oh, we had the issue with the stopwatch. Yeah, you basically just fucked it up. It's just a stopwatch.
And a stopwatch really failure.
we had an electronic failure with the stopwatch.
All right, listen here, Tom. The guy didn't click the button at the right time. He fucked it up.
Basically.
Actually, no, I don't think it was that. I don't think it was that. I think he said. I think I read on Twitter just now that it was a zeroing error, that the stopwatch started below 0. So it's one of those classic GCSE science issues where you need to zero the clock. All right, that guy who did the stopwatch, he should have learned from GCSE physics or chemistry. All right, he should have zeroed the watch, then started the timer.
I'm just imagining Toto Wolff in his voice. We had a mechanical failure with the stopwatch.
Why is he like Spanish or like Italian? It's fucking German.
It's just a stopwatch. You had one job, just 5 seconds on the clock, please. So it just reinforces Mercedes still are not really great with their strategy. To be honest, I mean they had a couple of dodgy pit stops, didn't they?
Yeah, not very fast ones. Yeah,
but like a race to forget for Rosberg. I think him and Verstappen sort of salvaged himself because Red Bull had a decent strategy, but I think Mercedes and Rosberg got it all wrong. Like they sort of like forced him onto the super soft for the second stint early.
I think they just didn't know. Honestly, I think they were like, I think we should put him on the fast tyre, but it wasn't the race tyre. It definitely wasn't.
I was watching Spanish commentary, and I think they hit the nail on the head. De La Rosa was on the panel, and he said like, obviously the degradation on the super soft was more than what they expected, and they sort of panicked and they just pit early basically, and it sort of threw the strategy out the window. Yeah. And you can see he was on the wrong tyre at the end. The Red Bulls probably the best strategy on paper, but obviously I think they had a set of supers there. Don't quote me on that.
Ricciardo had a new set of super softs for the last stint. Verstappen had used ones.
Right, yeah. Because Ferrari, for example, didn't have any supers for the race at all.
Oh, right, okay. Didn't know that.
That's where they fucked it up. So, that's how it went down.
So moving to Red Bull, we just talked about them. So Ricciardo and Verstappen, obviously Verstappen made a pretty okay move around turn 1, a little bit kind of, I don't know, it was a nice move. I would say it's a nice move, but at the same time, it was also a bit weird to see him just completely off the circuit making the move, but it's turn 1 anyway. And then, they just did their race in the first stint, and as you said, they did the better strategy on paper, going on the soft tyres. And then Ricciardo had a brand new super soft set, so that's why he set the fast lap of the Grand Prix at the end, and was just going for it. Looked like the commentators for a second were trying to drum up some sort of hype, like, oh, will he catch him? But it was very clear that he was never going to catch Hamilton. But he was going very, very fast. It was good to see that he was pulling away from Max, just kind of another confidence booster for Ricciardo, because we've said it a lot. The commentators have said it a lot of the time. Ricciardo's maybe had Verstappen on pace in the qualifying sessions as a whole in the 1-to-1s, but in the race, Verstappen's had the measure over Ricciardo a few times, and this is a bit of a confidence booster Ricciardo probably needed, and it was nice to see him really happy again, like really properly happy, like fully like grinning away. I think he even did a shoey and like put the champagne in his shoe and drank it. Freaking Australian. So yeah, it's good to see Ricciardo all chirpy like that, and Verstappen still solid job, 3rd place. Double podium for Red Bull. I think they'll be pretty happy with that, to be honest. I think they probably would have thought it would have been 3-4 going into the race. So
yeah, well, I literally before the race started, I watched Ricciardo's Facebook Live sort of Q&A.
Oh, right.
From yesterday, and he said like, I think the best we could do is probably 3rd. We'd like to challenge the Silveros, but we ain't really got that much pace in the race. Well, we got good pace, but we haven't got enough to really have a go at them. But obviously, they did their best. I think the Hamilton thing, for a second it could have caught him, but at the end of the day, Hamilton flat out did a Hungary to Ricciardo, basically. What he did to Rosberg, where he was just literally teasing him that 1 second window.
Yeah.
And sort of just maintaining the gap. It was like, he's like, oh yeah, come at me, Ricciardo. I'll just, I'll pretend you're catching me. Oh wait, let me just set the fastest up real quick. Yeah. Oh, sorry. And so, it was one of the ones where it's another one of like a bit of a battle, a tease of a battle, but it didn't happen because obviously.
I don't know, just generally, it also looked like just Hamilton was enjoying himself, just teasing him around a little bit. Because even at the end, in the post little interviews, just Hamilton seemed a lot more. I don't know, he felt like a lot more chirpier. Maybe obviously going to the summer break, so he can relax a bit more now. Yeah. But he was talking to Ricciardo, Verstappen. They all 3 of them in the little posting seemed all very up to talk to each other. So that was quite cool.
There was no awkwardness.
Yeah, there's no awkwardness from Rosberg being there.
And Hamilton. It's just so awkward for no reason, really. I mean,
and you got to think Rosberg now is going to be there for the next 2 years. Freaking. Yeah. It's just a bit weird that it's that awkward, and it's I don't think it's ever going to get better.
In that Facebook Q&A I watched, he got asked that and he actually spoke about it, and he says it's hilarious how awkward it is between the two of them on the podium when you're there. It's just hilarious. He said it's really funny because it's just such a strange vibe between the two of them.
Yeah, it
And
must
you
be
just
weird
wanna
for
laugh.
him because also a few times we've seen Rosberg and Ricardo hanging out in terms of when they all there's like small groups of drivers that like hang out when they go to races like on
Oh yeah,
Rosberg's private jet. And it's usually like,
windbags.
yeah, the Air Windbags United to like
Yeah.
stick it to Bernie. And it's usually like Rosberg, Ricardo, Button, Massa, Gutierrez, Hulkenberg, and DC, and like Massa's dad as well. So like it must be a little bit weird for Ricardo maybe hanging out with Rosberg and then seeing him turn and into like a different person and get a bit awkward when you're like next to Hamilton.
Yeah.
But moving down the order to Ferrari, I'm sure a very well, touchy subject, or I don't know what it is really, but Ferrari 5th and 6th, pretty bog standard from my point of view. I thought as a neutral to the whole Ferrari situation, bog standard Ferrari race. I thought that they weren't really going to make a challenge to Red Bull. I thought it was quite cute of the media to think they might have, but it was very clear they weren't. So 5th and 6th, I think pretty much the best they could have hoped for. So, and I believe Tom had a lot to think about with the way they suggested to Vettel that they could maybe try and undercut. Even though on the onboard camera, you could clearly see there was just thin air in front of him. And so Vettel making up his own strategy on the fly, saying, no, I want to continue out for a lot longer. Just a little bit odd. So what do you make of it, Tom? I'm sure. I think a few people are tweeting you saying they're looking forward to you ripping into them again.
I'm getting bored of it now, to be honest. I don't really have much to say. I just want them to forget about this year, to be honest, especially after when James Allison put in his resignation form this week. So, Ferrari just need to focus on next year. There is no reason, there is no proof. They said before Hungary that would be their make or break race, and they fucked it up at Hungary. So there's literally nothing for them to play for.
It's
maybe
the smart
for
move.
second in the constructors, but it's not like they need money. So
It's a smart move
just
for them to move. To
forget
20%.
about it. They're already working on 2018, so just focus on those 2 seasons more. There's nothing to play for this season anymore for Ferrari, and the strategy thing was just sums up where Ferrari are at the moment.
Yeah.
They're a bit directionless. They need like a new leader. They need something.
I saw a great tweet was like
They need direction.
I saw a great tweet which was we're gonna undercut Hamilton to win the race, and then Vettel goes how, and it's like because we're Ferrari. It's just like that like moment when they were suggesting to Vettel like try and undercut. It's like, are you so delusional? There's no one ahead of you. Like there is no one there.
That message really just did open my eyes. That when you see that Crofty make something out of nothing.
Yes, that
in
was
the
that.
commentary. Ferrari actually believe in themselves that they can make something out of nothing when you can blatantly see they've got no pace. They actually, it's almost like when playing Codemasters F1 games, it's not like a game. They genuinely believe that they could actually try and catch Verstappen. It's like the more I think about it, it's just like.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, Rosberg was 15.8 behind Hamilton, and Vettel was then 32.5 behind him. So that's a huge gap there. They were never going to undercut.
At the start, you wanted to undercut him, and then not just that, he said we're going to go into the option, and then they put him on softs, and then when Vettel rejoined, he was 4 seconds behind Rosberg. By the end of the race, he was like 12 seconds behind Rosberg. Why did they ever think they were going to undercut anyone?
Yeah.
They had to get past Rosberg first. He was behind Verstappen the whole race, and they were thinking about undercutting Verstappen. It just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Their qualifying pace was rubbish as usual. They haven't been able to qualify all season long. For love nor money. So then they try and do something in the race, but Red Bull just really had to measure them today.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much all that needs to be said. Really, not that I didn't actually even see the Ferraris too much in the actual race as well for the first time in a while. So moving on, Nico Hulkenberg, good quiet 7th place really. Never actually saw him, I think, once on the TV. Apart from maybe in a hairpin or so. But yeah, solid job, 6th place, 6 points, especially after you got like a 1-place grid drop for a tyre issue, which I thought was a little bit weird. But yeah, 7th place, solid job, not much else to say about that. His teammate Sergio Perez, able to get 10th at the end, overtaking Alonso right at the end. They had a nice little... Alonso tried his best to fight him, but Perez was on much fresher tyres, better tyres. So Perez gets in there for 1 point there. 8th place, Jenson. I was very happy with his race. Just generally McLaren. I was like, oh yeah, you go on. You've talked about Ferrari plenty of times in the podcast. I don't talk about McLaren as much as I probably should do. Jenson Button, I thought that was a really good race. I just generally liked McLaren catching Haas cars on actual pace in the straight line, and then going down the inside pretty easily into hairpins and stuff like that. So, yeah, really solid one. 4th place. Again, Jenson with the usual wit on the radio, which I enjoyed, and a lot of people did on Twitter. Yeah, fuck off. You can piss off. Enough of your freaking Ferrari fanboying. So 9th place, Valtteri Bottas. Williams, just a fake HRT, really. Williams, just poor pace. Massa, shocking pace compared to Bottas. Bottas comes through for...
Fake HRT?
Okay, that's probably a bit too kind. HRT probably could do better. Bottas with 2 points. Just generally, Williams just going backwards. At this rate, they'll be matching my driver season 3 and being right at the back at this rate. I don't know what they need. They need like some new direction in the... I think they need... that is actually... No, that's a good point. I think they need a new direction. They need to stop going down this, let's do a low drag car. I think they need to go full flip the other way and go like everyone else does. Let's go and get that downforce, because it clearly just isn't working for them anymore. And Bottas being overtaken by Button on pace at the end with some fresher tyres, that just summed it up for me. That Williams just... Yeah. And then Massa, even before his retirement, I think at one point he was 2 seconds slower than Bottas. Yeah, just not good signs. Not good signs. Someone did tweet me saying when I tweeted out in like all caps like glory when Button overtook him, that why do I hate Williams so much? I don't hate them that much. It's just the fact that Button overtook them. And usually, for the most of this season, and especially last season, McLaren were nowhere near Williams. So I just take great pride in the fact that we can overtake them now. But, yeah, I just think they need to change their philosophy, I think. They need a revolution like Ferrari almost tried this season with the way they were developing their car. But obviously, as well as Ferrari, execute it a little bit better. And I think they should just start focusing on next year like Ferrari. Don't know if you had anything to add to it.
I found it hilarious the way Bottas was squirming around with no tyres at the end. He was like 7. He was doing 126s on the last laps of the race. Like, he was 7 seconds a lap slower than Lewis Hamilton. You could see when Button walked past him, he had no tyres, and the same applies to Alonso. Alonso literally hit the cliff. Yeah. You could see once Perez got past him, the understeer Alonso had at the end, the chronic understeer. Exactly. Those two were just squirming for traction in the end, but and Massa as well. I mean, I'll be surprised if he's in F1 next year.
I think your facial expression says it all.
I'm trying not to be too savage. I don't think he'll be in F1 next year.
I personally don't think that as well. I think also, just for the sake of him, I just don't get that vibe that he's enjoying it maybe as much, and I think it's time for him to step out.
And I find it hilarious how he says he will remain in F1 as long as he's in a competitive team. Who would sign you up?
Let's move swiftly on before we get into territory where we maybe don't want to be. We're moving on to Haas. Gutierrez, 11th place. I'm guessing the team principal, I can't remember his name, Gunther, I think it is.
Gunther Steiner.
Yeah, it's going to be... He said before, like at Hungary or something, that he's going to scream if they get another 11th place. That was for qualifying. Gutierrez got 11th in qualifying and then got 11th in the race.
I think... I like it.
Yeah, Gunther's probably going to be very, like, just... Well, I think he'll be frustrated not to get the point in the end, but also, yeah, he'll just be, like, another 11th place. But,
I mean, if they had one more lap, they could have caught Bottas, who was literally, like, on the carcass of his wheels.
Yeah, Perez would have got to 9th and Gutierrez would have got 10th. But Grosjean with that penalty for, what was it, a gearbox change, wasn't it? Down the order, coming back to 13th. I thought a really, really solid drive for him to get up to 13th. Gutierrez 11th, another solid thing. I think Gutierrez had a bit of an issue with blue flags and understanding them again. As Ricardo at the end was like on the team radio, it was fantastic. He was like, I really like that guy. I really love him. Yeah, really great. Because he didn't want to like swear or anything. So Gutierrez, I think, needs to maybe look at his mirrors more and learn about blue flags. But as a whole, I like the fact he's not doing a shit job anymore. That he's doing okay. Yeah,
he's doing alright. I want to say, before we move on, you can notice a difference in the team radio today. Now, whether it's been affected by the orders or not, I mean, the one where McLaren radio messaged Alonso and he said, I can't remember the exact... I listened in Spanish, so I couldn't hear.
I think I remember the message, more or less. What it was. Wasn't it the one where Alonso was like... he was like, good job, Alonso, good move. And he was like, yeah, but I'll fall back behind in the pit stop, but don't worry, I'll get them back afterwards.
on track. Yeah, like on Spanish TV, they're going like, oh.
But he sounded like he had like a blueprint for the race. He was like, "I'll fall back, but don't worry, I've got this. I'll come back."
Is that reading off a script on the dash? It's on the dash.
Yeah.
And then also obviously Ricardo's message as well.
Yeah.
And you could see that we had a bit of a different impression with the team radios this race.
Yeah,
a little bit different.
For sure.
So that helped a little bit. That was nice to see.
Yeah, Toro Rosso moving down 14th and 15th. I think Toro Rosso just unfortunate, just one of these tracks that maybe they don't have pace.
I think we can talk about Kvyat, can't we? A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Kvyat, obviously very down after qualifying, and he seemed like a man who was just generally broken, completely broken. Will Buxton did an interview with him for the official F1 YouTube video, and he did the interview with Kvyat, and he looked distraught. Then Ricardo came along, and Will had... I really like this. I really liked Will for this. He literally just straight up asked Dan, even though it had nothing to do with Daniel, he was like, I just spoke to Kvyat. He looked completely broken, didn't know where he was.
But the way he said it sounded like some sort of like film or like a book. The way the superlatives he used and the words and the way he pronounced it, those words, he's like, he's broken.
He didn't know where he was. He didn't know who he is.
He doesn't know where he was. It's like, someone help this man. Oh, he just made it sound so like, ah.
And then Ricardo was pretty much like, well, they tried to help, but pretty much I got the impression that no, they don't give much help.
Not much of a fuck was given.
And then I think we saw a video on Twitter. I think this might have been after qualifying. I don't think it was post-race. I think it was after qualifying because he was wearing the same glasses he was in that interview with Sky.
True.
But basically, the reporter said that there's been some rumours from Russian media that you're going to lose your seat at the end of this year. And then Kvyat just went full, I don't give a fuck anymore. And he was like, well, yeah, the Russian media don't really know what the fuck's going on, to be honest, so I'll just do my own thing and we'll see how it goes. But I don't want to comment on it. So he just went completely like, don't give a shit. Piss off.
It was an emphatic 12-second statement.
Yeah. So Kvyat, unfortunately.
He had a solid race, to be fair. Just one place behind Sainz.
Yeah, just to come back behind Sainz.
Toro Rosso really starting to fade away. You can see that power unit is really not...
I think that is a big issue, the power unit.
It's really... But the thing is, unlike other teams, you don't really see Toro Rosso really develop their car as much as others, if you think about it. The car is still very much launch spec. It may be like the odd...
They have like a few little slot gaps. They have some different things here and there, but it's nothing like major to take big steps. But I think maybe also just this track. I think maybe... potentially come back a little bit later on.
But it's not a power track though, is it either? That's what's a bit like mystifying to me. I mean, McLaren did well, so it's not really power.
Yeah, I don't know.
Unless their engine is genuinely...
I think they also got caught up in a few fights here and there earlier on in the race. We saw them battling with the likes of Renault, which was surprising to really say. But K-Mag had a bit of a
good race.
Have a nice race. 16th place, although that's not amazingly high up. It was a nice race for him. He was having some battles, overtaking
up
people.
To 11th, wasn't he?
At one point, he was actually like right up there. So he was opportunistic with a few moves here and there on the Haas and like some other cars. So good day for Renault, I think, in terms of just promising that they're able to race people. Palmer had a quieter race considering where he qualified.
Yeah, but on the first lap, I think he hit the back of Massa, didn't he? And then he came in on the first lap for a pit stop, so that sort of basically handicapped him.
Very good point.
So,
looking down, Manor, Verline in 17th place, Harriento down in 20th. Once again, Verline just showing how much of a better driver he is.
But was he like 40 seconds, wasn't he? 40 seconds ahead of him, I think.
I can't tell because it just says
something
plus
like
2 laps for both of them, so I can't tell. But
at the time, I think it was like 35 seconds.
All right. Yeah. And then moving on to Sauber, which was unfortunate for Nasser, because Nasser made a really nice cutback move into turn 1, and it took like 4 cars, or 5.
Yeah, that was very much like Codemasters F1, where you know that AI are going to like stack up at the first corner, so you can pay yourself to get a good run through the corner. That was pretty good, yeah.
Unfortunately, he had to retire, and then Ericsson pretty much just 18th, trying to run 18th. Sauber, just usual stuff that they now need to wait for this money to trickle down and like actually use it for the R&D a little bit. But also they've also categorically said that they are going to focus also on next year a lot more. But they are hoping to bring up some upgrades maybe for the end of the season.
I remember NASA saying, was it Thursday press conference? He said, I'm getting the impression they're just going to bring like one massive rake of upgrades for Spa.
Right.
And then that's pretty much it.
Yeah, probably understandable. But yeah, that's been your rundown of the German Grand Prix. I thought it was obviously because of my guy. I thought it was a pretty okay race. I actually enjoyed watching it in terms of from when seeing the McLarens kind of fight. I also enjoyed watching a few of the battles in the midfield and lower down. But also as a whole, I can agree with Tom that it wasn't anything spectacular, but at least it wasn't as boring as Hungary and Baku maybe were. But
It was on par like Silverstone.
yeah, I think it was a Silverstone style thing. Yeah.
I mean, it was one of them races, like, and don't get me wrong, I'm still unbiased. Even though I support Ferrari, I'm not fanatical. I'm not wearing Ferrari merchandise. I'm not like diehard Ferrari. Like, I know they're not going to win the race. So I don't really care. It's not like Ferrari can still win. Yes, and if they don't win, I'm disappointed. No, they're not going to win. So I sort of just see it as
You're very much from like a neutral perspective.
It was just nothing. It's like Raikkonen didn't attack Vettel, Verstappen didn't really attack Ricciardo, Rosberg didn't really attack Verstappen, apart from the one incident. That was basically it. Hamilton's walked away. Hulkenberg had a quiet race. McLaren's almost but not quite battled. I don't know, just when I'm watching Gutierrez and Magnussen squabble for P13 for over an entire lap on live broadcast from onboard, you know it's not been a good race. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's still nice to watch those battles. I mean, obviously it's not for the front, but I think that's a big issue that F1 has as a whole. In terms of a lot of the times we'll slag off a complete race if there's not been a battle for first, and a lot of the times that's happened this season. Like the first 5 races of this season were really great, and the first 4, Rosberg was out in the lead. He fucked off, and they were still all brilliant races.
Exactly.
So
Hamilton fucked off, but they still could have been a good race, but there wasn't.
Yeah, there weren't at as many battles. But I think, just before we wrap up quickly, I think this was just something I wanted to point out, and I think Callum would have pointed this out as well, but he's not here today to point out. I don't know if you saw this, Tom, but basically last podcast, a lot of people had some issues with us saying it was a very boring race, and suggesting that we only like it when the Mercedes crash, or when there's a crash. If you look at Hungary, there were no battles. I laugh at people saying that the Verstappen-Raikkonen battle was an actual battle. It was Raikkonen stuck behind Verstappen in dirty air and just following him around for many, many laps. Trying something, didn't work, broke a little bit of his front wing, and then we went back to the same following around. That wasn't a battle. A battle is like, well, what we saw today with Rosberg and Verstappen trying something side by side, or, just cars going side by side, actually going through corners together instead of going one by one together. That's not a battle, in my opinion. That's not a battle.
I do agree, but I'm sort of sensing, as you're saying that statement, you're sort of realising there wasn't really a battle today, really, at Hockenheim.
No, I thought there were some battles. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure Rosberg tried something on Ricciardo early on. And then we had Rosberg at least trying something down the inside of Verstappen. We had the McLarens going down the inside of Haas cars. We had K-Mag doing a little switchback on some cars. There were some nice, tasty little moves here and there throughout this Grand Prix.
I'll bite the bullet here and I'll take the blame. The only people who say or give a stick for saying Hungary is a boring race are those people who on Twitter have LH44 in your username. And because Hamilton won the race, automatically determines it's a good race. Let me tell you, Hungary was fucking dreadful.
It was bad.
That was the worst race since
it wasn't maybe as bad as Baku. Baku was equally as bad, I think.
I think Baku was better. I don't think Baku was that bad. I think he got a lot of shit, but let's not forget it is a street circuit.
True, by street circuit standards, it was all right.
But Hungary is, compared to the V6 era races.
To the races we've had. Also, that's the thing. Also, a lot of the times when we talk about how these races are, we like to compare them to previous races we've had at the circuit.
Exactly.
And as it goes, compared to the V6 era of Hungary, it was shite. I still think that it was an enjoyable race for me to watch personally. Obviously, that's my opinion from who I support and stuff, and where I was looking at the race. Obviously, Tom's looking a bit further up at where Ferrari are and then where the battles are at the front for Mercedes and Red Bull. So I do agree with that. But obviously, from my own personal perspective, I enjoyed that race for what my driver did. But yeah, I mean,
it wasn't a snooze fest.
It wasn't a snooze fest. I saw a few people tweeting, "I'm bored," like in the middle of the race when I was really enjoying it.
Could have done with a safety car or something.
Yeah, or maybe some rain. But I saw a few people tweeting, "I'm bored" in the middle of the race while I was enjoying the button battles and stuff like that. So I don't want to talk about too much. I don't really care too much for drama or kind of debates. You'll notice if you follow me on Twitter, if there's ever a debate about F1, I don't get involved because generally I'm a very chilled out person. I don't really give a shit too much about what people argue about. So I'll leave it at that. That's the last to say on it. I didn't really want to bring it up that much, but I thought it needed to be said. But anyway, that's been the podcast, episode number 23 for the German Grand Prix. We'll see you guys next time. I'm not too sure if we're going to do one straight away next week, to be honest, because it's the summer break. So I think the next podcast you'll see will pretty much be dependent on if we have some news in the world of Formula One. So we'll see you guys next time, whenever that will be.
I'll put the suggestion now. We can talk about after. Now we've got a nice 4 weeks off. Maybe we could take some questions.
Maybe, yeah, there could be a possibility.
In regards to this season, next season.
Could be a possibility. Could be a
silly
possibility.
season driver lineup. So, we're open to that because we've actually got time now. It's not like the last 5 Grand Prix where there's been one after the other, after the other, after the other. So, if you want to leave some questions, we might do a little bit of like a 20-minute Q&A added on with some news or something. So, Yeah.
So, guys, hope you enjoyed it. Hit that like button if you did. Let us know what you thought of the Grand Prix in the comments below. If you're new around here, then do subscribe to this channel for the podcast. Follow us all on Twitter above our names, as Tom has just said. And we will see you guys next time, whenever that will be, for the kind of mid-summer break podcast. We'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.